guys, welcome to this video where we're going to be taking our home page that we've created previously for the Samoa site and then creating the Mal movement page. Now I'm just going to show you what this looks like completed. Okay, so this is as I say, the completed version here. So essentially the layout of the page is going to be identical to the home page, the index page. We will need to add some CSS styling in for this caption here and the other ones that are with pictures as well. One other aspect that we're going to look at is the insertion of how to insert video. So this is a video here with a very brief caption there. Otherwise, the layout of the page is going to be, as I said before, identical to the index page. Now, one thing that we're going to need to do at this stage is that since we're going to have a number of pages all sharing the same CSS styling, we need to take the CSS styling that is currently inside the index page, and here it is, and we need to move that to a separate file and then link the various pages to that file. So that's what we're going to begin with. So I'm just going to close this completed one here. Right, so I'm going to create a new file, and it's basically just a blank text file. So if you're doing this in Notepad++, all you need to do basically there is to create a new blank file, and for the language you can set that to CSS. So I'll just bring Notepad over here so you can see that. So file, new, and then set the language to CSS and then save it wherever we're going to be saving our various files. So back here in Dreamweaver, I've got, as I said, a blank text file here. So I'm going to save this as, now I've created a folder called CSS, and if I go inside that, you can already see that I've got a couple of CSS style sheets here, and the one I was using previously when I was practicing this was main style Samoa site. Now I'll give that basically the same name, except I'll put a 1 at the end of it so I don't overwrite my original work. So main style Samoa site would be fine for you, and I'm going to save that. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the index page here, and I'm going to now copy all the CSS styling but not the style tags. Okay, it's important that you don't copy those over, otherwise basically it won't work. So I've highlighted everything between the style tags. So I'm just gone Control C to copy that back to this CSS page here, and let's paste that in. Okay, and then save that. Okay, now back here on the index page, now I need to delete all the highlighted material. I'll leave the style tags in there just in case we ever need to come back to those, but you could also just delete them as well. I'm going to save my page here. If I go to live view, you'll see if I refresh that we now removed all the styling, and this is our page without the styling, obviously. Okay, so how do I basically link now this index page here to that CSS styling? Now there are tools in Dreamweaver to automate that process, but I'm just going to show you how we can do that manually. So as you'll see here, I'm doing this in the head section of the page, and this can be before or after these other links here. Now I'm going to try and avoid using any of the Dreamweaver shortcuts here. So if you're doing this in Notepad++, you can just basically follow along with what I'm doing here. And 1.css. So we're putting here the path to the CSS file that we just created. We also put this information in that tells the browser that this is a style sheet, and the type that it is basically a text file. And close that. Save that. Now, all going well, if I go back to live view and refresh the page, okay, now we've got back on our home page again almost everything I wanted. Notice that down here, because we've moved the CSS to a separate folder, okay, basically the path to the background image here is no longer working on the footer. So I'm going to go to my CSS file that I've just created, and let's see if I can find out where that is. Here's the footer here, and here's the background image. Now notice that it's just trying to find the background image, starting from the root level, going to images, and then trying to find that file there. Now the problem is that the CSS is now in its own separate folder. So what we need to do is go to the root level, go back up a level, then go to CSS and images. I think that should work. Let me just try that and see if that does work. Refresh that page. No, that didn't work. So let's try that again. Just try it without the dots in front. Okay, back to live view, refresh the page. Okay, still not working. Okay, the problem here is okay, we actually need to just go up to the root level and then into images. So I think this should be working now. Let's refresh that page, and sure enough it is. So going back to code view here in the footer, that should be the path then to our image for the footer. Okay, having done that, okay, what I'm going to do now is start to create the Mel movement page. So I've got the index page open here. Now I'm going to go File, and I'm going to Save As. Now as you can see, I've already got the Mel movement completed here, so I'm just going to call this the Mel movement. Okay, and save that. Now this will ask me to overwrite the one that I've already done, which I will do because I've already kept a copy of that. Okay, so essentially what I've got now are two copies of the index page, but one is called the Mel movement. Okay, obviously we don't want to have two copies of the index page. Okay, we don't want to have that twice. So now I need to go and get the text from the Mel movement. Now on OneNote, this is the text for the Mel movement here, and here are the images that you're going to use on the page, and here is the video. So I've opened up that text file in Notepad++, just on a different screen, and so I'm going to go and grab that text, so I'm just copying it, and then I'm going to leave the navigation obviously where it is. This link to the top of the page, I want to leave that in as well, and I want to leave the start of the section, and I want to leave that tag there, and I want to leave these two on line 67 and 68 there as well. I don't want to overwrite those, so I just need to be a bit careful about this. So I'm just going to highlight everything between those. Here we go, and let's paste that in. Okay, now just save the page. Let's have a look at that in live view. Alright, so the layout of the page is fine, with nothing broken there, except of course this is just one big block of text. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to put a whole lot of tags in. So I'll start this process off, but I'm not going to go through for about 20 minutes putting tags in and boring the hell out of you guys. So I'm going to just show you how we can start this off. Okay, now one thing which I haven't got in, which I should have had in, was the main heading. Okay, so we're going to have the main heading here, and they're going to be in H1 tags, and it's going to be the Mal movement. Now remember, all the styling that we had previously is now linked here as well. So even that styling there for the H1 tags, if I go and have a look at that in the browser, it's picking up that straight away. Okay, now notice here there is an image that I'm asking you to put in here, and this is the caption underneath it. So let's put that image in, get rid of that text because we don't need it, and I'll just do a few of these things here just to give you an idea of what we're trying to do. Okay, now this is the part, basically the name of the image there, so I can copy that, or cut in fact, and put it there in the path. And anything else I need to put with that? It does have a width of 250 pixels and a height of 199, and the alt text that I want to put in is just this description of what the image is about for those using screen readers. Okay, now we need to test as we go that this is working. So saving that, testing it in a browser. Yes, the image has come through, so that's all good. Now the caption, okay, at the moment I'm just going to put the caption as a paragraph. And at this stage I'm going to leave you guys and go and put all these various tags in, and then I'm going to come back once I've finished doing that. So I'm just going to pause recording for now. Okay guys, just resume recording at this stage here just to show you a couple of things. Okay, so this is, as I say, where I'm up to. I've put a few paragraphs in, I've inserted this other image. This text underneath the images are going to become later on the captions. Okay, so paragraphs in these places. Now one thing which I didn't put into the original text file, when you get to this paragraph here, okay, this is a quote from the Samoan author and Professor Albert Wendt. Okay, so you make sure you put the quotation marks at the beginning and after that full stop there after the word century. So putting paragraphs in throughout. Now Mal leadership, when we get to that stage, this is going to be a smaller heading, so this goes in H2 headings, and this is going to be another image that we're going to be putting in here, but make sure that this is an H2 heading. And we're also going to put a horizontal rule just to divide the page up a little bit. Remember, you do that by using the HR tag, and it's a self-closing one as shown here. Okay, so HR and then that / and then the closing triangle bracket. Okay, so let's save that, have a look at that, and refresh that. Okay, so here's this horizontal line that we're going to be wanting to put in. Okay, so I'm going to continue putting more tags in. I'll just pause the recording for now. Alright guys, so this is where I've got to at this stage. I've put in the various paragraph headings. So just going back to code view here. Okay, so the male leadership was a H2 heading, mentioned that before. Now also a little bit further down there was another image here of the male prisoners and sailors in up here. Okay, so yeah, I think that's pretty much what we want. Now down the bottom here we had a link to the top of the page that we kept from the index page. I'm going to copy that and put that basically just before that horizontal rule, so that there is another link to the top of the page there. So if I go back to live view here, or a browser view, okay, so we have a link to the top of the page there as well as one here. Alright, so that's all good. Now at this stage here, what I'm going to want to do is I want these captions basically to become real captions, and also I want the text to move up next to the images here. Alright, so to achieve that, okay, we're going to do a little bit of styling here. Okay, now one way of getting the caption to be in the position where we want, and this is definitely not the only way that this could be done, but is the way that I'm going to do it, is that I'm going to put the image and the paragraph that follows it inside a container, and a generic container is a div. Now I'm going to give that a class of caption. We haven't written that class yet, but we're going to do that soon. And then after the actual paragraph that's got this will become the caption, close the div there. So we've got an opening div here with a class of caption, and it's closing it there. It's enclosing the image with the paragraph that follows it. Now saving that, and now let's go to our CSS, and I'm going to add in a rule for the caption. Okay, now since it's going to be a class, we need to have a full stop before caption there. Now I'm going to make the font size reasonably small, but still obviously readable. And I'm going to be using this rem unit, which is a size relative to the base body size. So if you can count the base body size as 1, 0.7 would be 70% of that. I'm going to set the font style to italic, simply because I think it looks better for a caption. If you don't, you just don't make it italic. Okay, and I'm going to float this div, the whole div, and so everything inside it will also be floated left. And because I'm floating it left, I'm going to put some margin on the right, and I'm going to set that as 1%. Text align is a way that I can center the paragraph text basically inside this div, so that it looks sort of aligned underneath the image and centered. And margin on the bottom, we might sometimes set that, but for now I'm just not going to put that in and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's all good, and I'll save that. Let's go back to here and let's look at this in live view and refresh that page. Okay, not quite the way I was wanting it to look here at the moment. Okay, so definitely the text has taken on the style that I want, but this whole thing's taking up far too much room, and the reason for that is I think we need to float the whole thing left, and I'm just wondering why that hasn't happened. So I'm just going to pause the video and have a look at that problem, come back to you. Alright guys, managed to figure out how to get this text looking a bit better and this whole thing not taking up the whole width here. And the main problem was actually the caption. Now, because the caption text is so wide, it basically just took up the whole width of the, well, just expanded the width of the container. So when you don't specify a width, any content like this will just fill up whatever width is available, and that was basically the whole width of this content section here. So we're just going right across the page. So to get around that, what I've done here is I've specified a width. Now this is 38%, and part of the problem with this is that when we apply it to others, that same width is then going to apply to those as well. So we may have to come back and revisit this, but for now it's going to work for this particular one here. But as you'll see, when we do the others, we're going to run into a problem that we'll have to find another way of getting around. Okay, so the other images then, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy some code here and close that div there. Alright, so that one should also hopefully be working now. If I go back to live view and refresh that, okay, that's actually working pretty well for the first two images because they have the same width. Now, one other thing I did back on this caption here, I did put a break in here. I was trying to get the, well, I have got the line photograph by Alfred John Tattersall on its own line. Okay, so that's how it's looking at the moment. I'm not totally sure if I like that, so in fact I'm going to take that out and just put that in a bracket just to sort of highlight it that way. So let's refresh that. Yeah, I actually like that better. Alright, so first two images fine, and we're going to run into a problem with the next two, I suspect, though. So let's carry on though, and this image here, and let's close that container, save that, and let's do the same this one down here. These lines that I'm putting above these various between the paragraph here and this div don't have any effect on the layout of the page, just simply so that I can read the code a bit better or more easily. Okay, so let's refresh that. Now, as you can see, this has got far too much width here. Alright, so this is something we're going to have to do something about for these two ones here. Right, so let me just pause the video for a moment and we'll come back to trying to fix these things up in a second. Alright guys, what I've had to do is resort to a different method of trying to get the caption width to be something that we can work with. So this is what I've ended up with here. I'm not fantastically happy with it, but it will do for now. Okay, so the way that I've done that is back in the styles I took away the 38% width there, and I've put some breaks in the text that's part of the caption. Now this was a little bit of trial and error, and when you do it you might find something that works a little better for you, but that's where I've put the various breaks in. Okay, so notice open triangle bracket BR and then a / and close the triangle bracket, and that puts a line break basically into the page. Okay, now the caption for the this other image here doesn't really need a break, and this one here, okay, yes, we do need to have a break there. That's using this method. Okay, and let's have a look and see if I need one on the last image. So that's looking pretty good for that one. Yes, I do. Probably I'll put a break after the word transported. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now we've got basically that page looking pretty much the way that we want it to now. Okay, so I think we are almost finished. I just want to see if there's anything else I've forgotten to do on this page. Oh yes, of course, we need to put the video in. Alright, so having got the text basically where I want it to go, okay, now we need to get that video down the bottom there. So let's go back to code view and let's see where that video is going to go. Alright, so in the code here, what we're going to do is we're still going to put the video inside the content section, okay, and definitely don't want it to be part of the aside section here. So before the end of the content section but after the other content, this is where we're going to now put the video in. Now for video these days, it's a hell of a lot easier to insert video than what it used to be even a few years ago. So the tag that you use is simply video. Now the word controls there means that there will be controls that appear with the video, like pause and restart and resize and things like that. If you leave that out, basically the video won't have any controls. Now the only other thing we need to do now is specify the source, and this is basically done in exactly the same way as you would an image. So we have the path. Now I've put the video inside a folder called video, and this is a very long file name here, and you could definitely shorten this, and I should have really done that myself too. The problem with these very long file names is that you end up half the time making spelling mistakes and spending time trying to sort out those. Now as you can see, this is a video that was produced in 2011, so it's getting a little dated, but it's still pretty relevant because it is talking about what happened 50 or more years ago, or in fact far more than that as well. Okay, now you do need to put the type in, and this is a video and it's an MP4 type video there. Don't need that, but let's just separate it visually from that, just indent that so it stands out. Okay, so all going well as long as I've got the correct spelling here. Just double checking that. Make sure tongue is spelled right. That looks okay. So let's give it a look in live view. Okay, and yes, it does seem to be there. So probably time to test it in the browser. And I'll have a look at this in Torch, which is no, I won't restore those pages. Alright, so that's all looking good, and yeah, let's test that. There we go, sounds working as well. Okay, the only thing I'm not happy about this is still this thing here. I might play around with those line breaks a little bit later because I don't like all this sort of space here, but in terms of our overall page, the content's in the right place. We do have the captions. Okay, that's looking a little wide there as well, so possibly could split the name up. I'm not very happy about splitting the name up, but could possibly do that. And otherwise that's working fine. Now the only thing we need to do, of course, is link the pages, because at the moment if you click on home, then it won't actually take you home. So let's go back to code view here and let's look at our navigation. In fact, I have already done that. So what I've done here is, this is on the Mal movement page. I've got this here is the actual path to my index page. So before it might have had this hash symbol here, so we need to put in index.html as the link for the home page. And for the Mal movement, here is this here. Make sure I've got the spelling of the page correct, which I do. Okay, and on the index page, if I go back to the navigation there, need to make sure that is replicated there as well. Of course, the easy way of doing that is to make the change on one of your navigations and then copy and paste it to your other pages when you're ready to do that. Alright, so let's test it then back in Torch here. And if I click on home, yes, it's taking me home. If I click on the Mal movement, it's taking me back to there. So that's all good. Okay, now we will need to create a further page, which is going to be the history page. I'm not going to get you guys to make the information page, but we will have 3 links, and we'll change our navigation basically with 3 rather wide links there. I much prefer to have 4 pages, because then the links don't look too wide, but for this particular exercise we'll end up just with the 3 pages here. Okay, catch you guys.